So, step one, open bag A. Get yourself some little parts trays. You know, you can, a lot of different things you can use. These were very inexpensive. And here's another type of parts tray. It's made out of silicone material. They come in really handy when you're opening these bags and you got a bunch of screws that you can pour them all in and then pull out what you need as you go. That way you don't misplace stuff. So we need to make our linkage for our servo to the steering linkage, and let's see, where are those parts? Looks like they are, I think they're in here. Yep, A1, bag A1. That's our fan mount. This is actually a very critical part of your build, is getting these angles correct, making sure that your servo is positioned exactly the way they describe, because if it's not, your servo may bind up, the servo arm may touch. That's another reason to get a TLR servo arm. In my case, it's 25 tooth. The part number is TLR 1557. I think they're around $8. It's definitely worth it to have something that's going to fit properly and not give you clearance issues, because if it's a little too long, it's going to rub up against the piece here you'll see in a minute. So here are our two eyelets. And that looks like our grub screw. Having a set of calipers is important, and mine, the battery is dead at the moment. Let me see if I've got a spare. Yes, it is always good to have a spare battery. Now, this isn't relevant to the build, but I'm going to need this tool throughout the build, and these are a very good thing to have in your toolkit. So I'm going to keep this because that shows me the type of battery I need to get, and I'm going to get another one and stick it in the box. So I will have it next time. Actually, the screwdriver came with the kit, so I should put that back in there too. Okay, now they say it should be end-to-end 32 millimeters. And I've got 32.5 or 0.49, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that. And I'll adjust it if I need it. So, and we need an angle there. They don't, you look at the picture, you see one is, it's not quite flat. Odd use of tools, but I don't want to change the shape of the holes by using something else in there. So when the threads are really tight, this is a good way to go. That looks pretty much like the picture, a little more. There we go. That looks good. Okay, now I need to pull the servo out. There is our screw. I always save these boxes. They make great little parts boxes. So servo needs to be in this orientation. And I need the servo arm. Now, I also want to make sure this is facing upright, so I need a servo adjuster to zero it out. Okay, servo tester. They're not very expensive. Keep a set of batteries around for it. Make sure you plug things in correctly. Oh, I hate it when they do that, all black wires. Okay, black is, ground is usually this pin. Find out in a moment. There we go. Servo is nice and smooth. Go ahead and switch to center. I usually throw it all the way to one side or the other, and then click the center button and let it, you know, swing full distance. Sometimes they are not perfectly up and down the orientation, and you just have to adjust for that. Yeah, a little bit of trim will sort that out. It's only off by like 2 degrees. You know, there was a locking washer in this bag, and I think that would be a good thing to use in this case. Right there. You can see it's basically got some little teeth at like 40-degree angle, 45-degree angles or whatever, and that will bite into the screw and the aluminum and keep it from loosening. I could use a little bit of Loctite, but I think I'll go with this route instead. Could do both. Don't think it's necessary. I've never had a servo horn come loose. Okay. So now we're going to need a ball stud, which they provide right here. And lock washer. And they have us putting this in on the back side here. Is that threaded? It probably is. Yes, which is nice. Now this, I will put a little bit of blue Loctite on these threads, even though I'm going to be using a lock nut, just to make sure, because this is the kind of thing that could potentially loosen. Just a teeny bit. Yeah, see, because of the thickness of the aluminum, it's barely touching the threads, if it even is. So using that Loctite is definitely important. Let me get something. Some of my tools are far afield at the moment. I haven't built in a while. Maybe I should do it on this side. There we go. Just making sure this thing moves cleanly. Okay, now we move on to the chassis. Looks like they gave us 2 of different thicknesses, so keep mind to that. So 2 of them are going to go on the chassis here, and then 2 of them go on our side rails. Let's see, and which ones go which? Do they tell us? Since 2 of them are recessed, they go in these slots here. I would use the thicker of the 2 in the recesses, and then the thinner ones on the side rails. Let me see, you should be able to see here the difference. So, and they've got them on the two inner ones. And that makes sense because we're doing a forward motor position, so we're probably going to have a waterfall right here. So putting them back here wouldn't be useful. Like so. So I would put your let's see. Yeah, I'd put them about a 1/4 inch away from the edge here. That should be about where the battery's going to be. Okay, so okay, I'm going to do a little plug for MIP here. MIP makes some of the best tools. Their hex drivers in particular are just outstanding. This is a, no-name brand, got them off Amazon. If you look at, first off, the precision is just higher with the MIPs. And they kind of flange them, they kind of get a little wider, so the further in you are, the tighter it is. When I'm screwing into hard plastic, I just find it easier to use one of these. There's less of a chance of stripping out the head on the screws. So let's just check our sizes here. They are all the same. So, okay, that's 8. Let me just check my supply of titanium screws. Titanium will lower your weight a little bit, and when you've got hundreds of screws or even dozens, it can make a factor. The main reason I like using titanium for stuff like this is the corrosion factor. Now, because these screws are down low, I would normally not switch them, because the lower the center of gravity, the better. So the screws that are higher up in the car, I definitely change those to titanium if I have them. You can get titanium screws in fairly decent bulk size, 10, 20 at a time, off of Amazon. But because these are on the bottom and they can get damp and such, they won't, I don't want them to corrode. So if I have them in the right size, I'll go ahead and switch them, and I do not. So just going to go with the steel. Might get some of those at some point and swap them out. Those are 8s. You get your screw sizes right here, M3 by 8. M3 is basically, that's the type of screw, and 8mm is the length. So also our end screw here is going to be our fan mount, which comes in a separate bag and has a specific screw to mount the fan to that. You'll notice there's a hex cut right here. And let me go ahead and pull out the fan mount. You should definitely make use of this and put a fan back there. So as you can see, this is hexagonal shaped. So that is going to fit into there. And that allows you to plug in a fan. And they should give us orientation on that, but they don't. That's okay. As I said, having mounted these up before on another car, that's where your fan is going to go right like here, and you'll attach it with that screw. So I'll go ahead and put that one in first. Now, if you have one, you can use a powered screwdriver. I do have one, but I don't like over torquing by mistake. You've got to be careful. You don't want to strip the threads. And a part like this, it's important that you don't, because this is providing a lot of rigidity to the chassis. In fact, I think they also offer these side rails in the Stiffzil compound plastic, which is a stiffer plastic that would make the car less likely to, the chassis twist would be reduced and chassis flex would be reduced. Now we're just doing these four. These are going to be left unfilled at the moment because those are going to have the mounts for the servo attached. I don't tighten them all the way down until I've got all four in. This is a good way to go. Now, this screw, again, was for the fan mount. I'm not going to bother putting it in now. I'm just going to leave it aside, and when I get to that part of the build, I'll either use the original screw or I'll put in a titanium screw. So, A5, we need our two servo brackets, and we need four M3x12s, which I do have in titanium. So I'll go ahead and use those at this time. Make sure you orient these properly, like so. And 3x16s. When you're putting these in, they have a hex fitting. Make sure you orient them so that the hole here, it's like a body clip hole, that is pointing front to rear and not off at an angle. Like that. Otherwise, you'll just have to take them out later. This is the kind of part that you're never going to swap out. Once it's in, it's going to stay in the car. not a complaint, but it's too bad that we don't have the ability to move our battery, because that is a good way to help tune your vehicle. Even if you're only moving it, as much as a ½ inch forward or backwards, it can make a big difference in how the car handles. Probably because we only have so much room here for electronic speed control, because our servo is going to come right to there. Still, it looks like there could have been room for a little adjustment, but no big deal. It's one less thing you need to worry about tuning, and you can always add weights. Okay. Now, this is a very nice, it's not exactly a feature. There are these shims here, these plastic shims for the servos. And depending on the manufacturer, they have made the calculations for you as to how far this needs to be offset from the mounts. And this is a ProTech, and ProTech needs 0 millimeters, so I don't need to use any of those spacings. If I was using a Sanwa, I would need a 2 millimeter and a 1 millimeter. If I was using a Futaba servo, I'd need a 2 millimeter, etc. So I need these for button head screws. Let me see what size those are. 3x10s. Pretty sure I got those in titanium. Yes. There's a little bit of play that you could slide the servo left and right a teeny bit. I'm just going to go right dead center. And I'm going to hold it down against the chassis so there's no space underneath. Okay, done. On to A8.